This is Grimm Grinner on all channels.
Hey there, wastelanders.
Don't you fucking quit on me now!
News of violent attack catch you all as the phoenix rises from the ashes. Welcome to the wastes. Good afternoon, wastelanders. This is Grimm Grinner broadcasting out of the network on all channels. It's a surprisingly nice day out in the Burblack region of the wastes, despite the winter chill setting in. Today's broadcast is going to be a little more like the radio broadcast of the old world, which is what I wanted this all to be before I became the top most wanted on the corporate hit list, as well as the target of a fanatical cult. Yeah. Luckily, there have been little reports of either group over the past little while. Nothing more than the occasional attack by a member of the jury out on the roads, or attempted raids by creeps. With everything that's happened over the past few months, I'm honestly surprised it's been that quiet. I just hope it's not the calm before a radiation storm. Anyways, let's move on to something a bit more normal, shall we? We have news out of the bakery that the recently fortified gates are holding nicely, thanks to CJ and her team giving them some much-needed improvements. The main entrance was able to easily withstand a roaming feral pack that happened through, and the fortifications have proven to be intimidating enough to deter any raiders from mounting any sort of attack. Guess you'll be making some runs to other settlements to help do some more upgrades like that, won't you, CJ? I received word that a group of wastelanders may have a lead on the Shawa Rats, the group of raiders that sacked the med bay a while back. They were reported skulking around a small abandoned outpost near the Gat, formerly known as the Singing Stein. No idea if they're still around there, but the bounty is still out on them, so it's worth a look. Speaking of the med bay, they've finally managed to recuperate from that attack, and have even begun the project of expanding into other wings of the hospital. Clearing out ferals has been troublesome, but there have been enough wastelanders passing through that they really haven't had to go searching far for any help with that task. We're planning on getting the trading route cleared and ready to go with them soon, so that wastelanders in the more northern areas no longer need to worry about getting medical supplies. A couple new spots have begun to pop up near settlements and existing outposts, which is great news. Just outside of Ausund, a new trading post calling themselves Poppy's Plunders has set up shop. Offering curios and trinkets, as well as ammo and supplies, they're a good stop to make before getting to the walls of Ausund, which is also under new leadership. Sounds like Drake Urban's younger brother Caleb has found a way to blend elements of what he learned growing up in the Gat, alongside the more fast and loose way of doing things out in the wastes. He's fortified the walls, and is placing some minor regulations on bounty hunters within city limits, which sounds like a bit of harmony that you don't find much out there. Now, let's just hope that that corporate upbringing doesn't turn things sour. I'm going to change things up a little bit, Wastelanders, and I'm going to try and revive a sort of segment I was trying to add into my broadcast a while back. I think I called it Grimm's Waste Survival Tips. These are small tips and pointers for anyone out there in the wastes. First couple times I added it in, I discussed ammo and knives. Today, I'm going to go into a small bit of depth on tips when it comes to ferals out there. As you all know, ferals were once very much people like the rest of us. That's until the virus hit and the whole world tore itself apart. Somehow, with ferals managing to survive through the bombs going off and the sectioning of territories out in the wastelands, it's made the threat of discovering a nest of ferals more dangerous for regular people trying to survive out there. So, here are some tips I've used to either escape, evade, or eradicate ferals out in the wastelands. Number 1. If there's one, there's bound to be more. Kind of like bed bugs of the old world, if you spot one feral out there, there's likely a lot more to be found nearby. Ferals tend to roam in packs, which makes them all the more deadly to come across. It can be bad news if you end up surrounded, so if you catch one in your sights, try and avoid getting too close unless you have a decent-sized group with you to fight them off. Safest bet, try and find a way to distract them if you can. Draw them away from the route that you need to take. Huck a rock or some scrap, and hope it pulls the pack in that direction. Tip number 2. Ferals don't use weapons, so use yours. Ferals were once regular people, but with the way the virus works, their use of rudimentary tools is extremely limited, at least as far as anyone else has seen before. They tend to forego weapons and use their hands and teeth to try and shred their victims. Now, just because they don't use weapons doesn't mean that they've forgotten the damage they can do. A show of force, especially with a gun or maybe an extremely intimidating melee weapon, can scare off the smaller clusters and avoid having to get in a scrap. 3. Combat tactics are great, but think like you're fighting an animal. Now, if evading or escaping an encounter with ferals doesn't work, you may have to eradicate a few to get out with your limbs intact. The tricky part is how you come at the situation. Fighting with ferals doesn't quite work the same way as if you're fighting creeps or a bounty hunter. Those guys can strategize, and they can use weapons. Ferals will swarm quickly and overpower a few people in a short amount of time if you don't thin their numbers fast enough. This can be where your ability to wield a sawed-off, a burner, or even just a bat with some nails in it comes in handy. More often than not, once you've provoked them, a pack of ferals will simply rip you to shreds and can't be reasoned with in any way. So, just start shooting and swinging, and make it count. Thin out enough of the pack, and they may second-guess the decision to make you their second breakfast. Now, none of these tips really get into what to do if you find a nest. For that, I simply just suggest backing away and getting the sweet hell out of there, and fast. We've been trying to generate a map tracking some of their nests and their movements, but getting it to the nearby outposts is difficult. So if you do happen to come across one by surprise, try and relay the location as much as possible. That way other wastelanders can learn to avoid it. Leopard just finished up his run the other day, and has made a stop back by Burblack, so we're going to have a sit down with Mama Coog and discuss the prospects of setting up a small post board and a relay for Phoenix Express here. Maybe try and coordinate with a few other outposts to get boards up as well. Thinking Animated Broom, Domino Club, Medbay, that kind of thing. For now, I'm off to join a small crew heading to the new location for the liquor box to try and get things set up and start on rebuilding. Labie and CJ were able to find a new spot just between here and the Domino Club that should be more secure, and doubly so when we get through with fortifying it. As much as she hates to turn down good business, this location will be off limits to any corporate-affiliated individuals without express permission by Miss Alliker herself. Corporate credits are no good here, folks. It's just going to be caps, scrap, and other bartering. This has been Grimm Grinner on all channels for the network. See you in the wastes. Welcome to The Wastes is a Wasteland podcast brought to you by Edward Grimm Grinner Hutchinson. Feel free to follow me on all social media and make sure to subscribe so you can hear new episodes as they release. If you like what I do here and want to support the podcast by getting some cool merch, check out my Etsy store. For more information and all the links, check out linktree.com/welcome to the wastes. Thanks for listening.